I think capitalism is very good at doing three things. It's very good at investing, asset allocation. I'm going to choose where I'm going to put my money.
Right.
And by the way, if I do have good impact accounting, it should help me to actually do the right investment.
Yes.
Because it's an investment tool and not just, it's an asset allocation tool and not just.
You measure the return in a different way, right? Yeah.
So that's would be number one. The second thing that capitalism does is risk management. How do we, once I have invested into this coffee cup, how can I protect it? How can I make sure that the money that I've invested is not being destroyed by some phenomenon? They're not looking at the risk of the future and at planetary boundaries being overridden. Frankly, it's just not professional. It's happening everywhere, left, right, and center. We can see the costs rising.
You have a responsibility to think.
And you have a responsibility as a manager to do that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. But the third thing that capitalism does is competition. And at the moment, in our business model, competition is won by the cheapest. And that's why we need regulation.
Often, yeah.
That's why we need regulation. If we don't have regulation to create a level playing field, we're not going to be judged on the right criteria. So I come from a regulated industry. Health and pharmaceuticals is something where we are used to talk to the regulator regularly,
right.
And I like that. I think it's a good idea to be regulated.
Yeah.
The interest of the many should be at least as important as the interest of my shareholders.
Okay, that's fair enough. But let's talk about this regulation a little bit, especially as it pertains to competition. Once you start regulating the competition, you do level the playing field, but don't you also eliminate some of the incentives for further innovation, for example? Because to make the investment, right, that will have some kind of future return in a competitive world, what you're hoping for, obviously. Now, this leaves aside the happiness issue for the moment, right?
But that's the only one that matters. Come on. But okay, I'll listen.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. Indulge me for a moment.
Yes.
But you would need to have the confidence. Okay, there's never a guarantee, but you need to have the confidence that this innovation that you're going to invest in would spin off some kind of a return, and this would be a financial return among other kinds of return. And maybe the only way that can happen is if you are able to compete properly against your competitive set. And if regulation would actually somehow dampen that competition. I mean, there are a lot of ways you would do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be price regulations, although, as you said, this is kind of the be all and end all for competition in a lot of industries. But how could you sort of get your hands on competition and soften it somehow and still maintain the wish on the part of the organizations that are being regulated to stay in business if they don't see the same level of financial return? Now, they might see fantastic returns in terms of happiness and societal value, things like that. I get that.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. I could argue both sides of this of the coin here, but is that enough? I guess that's what it comes down to. Is that enough in the business world to make people change their behavior?
We need to agree on what innovation is. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Innovation is doing something that hasn't been done before. The model today is price sensitive and it's price competitive. Now, when I said, the person who wins the market is the cheapest one, you said sometimes. This was your reaction. You were sort of taken by surprise by that assumption. And it's true that there are ways of differentiating products which are not just price-based.
Right.
Because you can use innovation to do something different. In the pharmaceutical industry, innovation is not to get a process cheaper. Innovation is to help us to treat something that does not exist yet. Something that exists, but where the treatment does not exist yet.
Hasn't been treated.
And I think innovation can be used in many ways, even in a regulated environment, as long as you concentrate on the attributes that you would wish your product to have.
Yes.
If the only thing you want to do is to have it cheapest, which is the model we have in a deregulated environment,
right,
then you cannot get to something that will that will profit to all. What we're really talking here is going from the me to the we. How do we make sure that it's not just my product, but that it is the need we have collectively?
Yes, right.
How do we manage the global common in the best possible way?
Yeah.
And managing the global common is not about extracting or polluting the system. It's about regenerating. It's about bringing back.
Yeah.
And that's where I would like to see industry. I would like to see the general commerce going back to.
Yeah.
We are not doing things just for us. We're
Yes.
doing things for everybody.
Right.
And for instance, the Latin basis of the word company, compane, eating bread together, doing things together, so that we have prosperity. It's not about one business model winning. It's not about the winner takes all. It's about the value creation benefiting the system, and that means that we can stay within planetary boundaries, and that means that you can create the sustainable prosperity that the book is trying to speak about.
Right. I mean, you
To write about, I think you say in English. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
to say, right?
Okay, thank you.
To express, and very successfully also. But I don't want to say but. I sound like we're getting into an argument here, and that's not my intention.
No, it's
but
a
it's
debate.
a
It's a
really
debate.
interesting conversation, and I find myself as an MBA and a business person myself, sort of just naturally falling into the side of the argument that says, but no, we can't do that. I mean, the expression, the tragedy of the commons.
Of course,
right?
of course.
And
I know the phenomenon as well, sadly.
yeah, I can imagine. And so, in a way, if everyone is co-responsible for everything, then everyone thinks, oh, but the other person will take care of that, and they'll take a little bit more than their fair share, or they won't look after they won't take their responsibilities to do their fair share of maintaining whatever this common property is, right? I think that's the gist of the tragedy of the commons. And of course, what happens then as time goes by is whatever was this common property ends up just disintegrating, collapsing, or losing all of its value because no one really took proper care of it. And I think the lesson that's usually applied to that is it's all about ownership and the value also to the other people in the commons of having private ownership guaranteed. And I guess this is even one of the issues, isn't it, that's been occasionally kind of put forward to countries that have maybe recently emerged from the communist world a generation or so ago, that they needed to look after this whole idea of the rule of law, but also private ownership rights, because as long as they said everything belongs to everyone, it's a kind of a guarantee for things falling apart.
So
what do you think about that?
I'm going to request a leap of imagination from
Okay.
you. We are not for left and right.
Yeah.
We are not me or us. We are collectively in the system, and we need to make sure that whatever there is as natural resources available are used in a way which is not pollutive. Which is not extractive, which is not polluting, but which is regenerative. Because we consume more than the earth can give us.
Yeah.
So how are we going to be able to do that if we only look after the private interest? The idea of the winner takes all is something that has led us to the destruction of the environment as we know it today.
Yeah.
We need to understand prosperity as being something which is not unequal as the one we see at the moment, but as something that is more caring about the other, which is the sort of philosophy we were talking about before.
Yeah.
The being rich on alone is not a good way of sharing the values we want to share.
Right.
We need to be able to work together. Right. So I went to business school and I was told, the business of business is business. Your role as an freshly minted MBA is to go into company and to maximize shareholder value. But if you do that in a way where you make the system around you poorer, and we have made the system poorer, you are putting into danger your own future as a company. Yeah. You cannot hope that the company will service a market which will disappear because of lack of resources.
Right.
If the fossil fuels continue to make this tremendous amount of money they make at the moment, at some stage it will destroy the planet. And once the planet is destroyed, what will all this money be for? I mean, we need to translate our economic activity and our value creation into something else than just cash.
Yeah.
We need to talk about contribution and regeneration.
Yeah.
And we all know that,
Yeah.
This is the thing that always sort of staggers me. It is the brain is divided in two. It is a brain that knows and there's a brain that does. Now, I ask anybody in the street, they all know that the system actually is self-destructive. We're going, not actually, the system at the moment is self-destructive. We are going towards the precipice. We can see all signs of this. And what do we do individually? Oh, it's not my fault. It's the Americans. It's the Chinese. It's not me. But the reality of it that if not, and each one of us acts into the interest of the common good, we are going to get rid of it. We're going to destroy it. And so the idea of saying that I can every morning look at myself in the mirror and say it's okay. I know it's not right, but I still do it because by doing it, I contribute to the prosperity of others. I'm afraid that's just not possible anymore. You need to be able to realize that it is your problem, individually. Jointly and severally, we need to act together to create this prosperity that we need. And we need that prosperity because otherwise people are going, as we are at the moment, being mistreated in the south and being very rich in the north. There's something that doesn't work in that distribution of richness. And so we need to what I'm just describing is a pathology. It's schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, you need to reconcile this. You need to reconcile your ambitions with your means. You need to make sure that your frustrations are covered with something that you actively do. If you cannot commit yourself to do something to make the world a better place, well, you're not going to be very happy.